And is that some, wanted to bring up the...
Yes, because there are only 2 members present who were present for the meeting on January 18th. I would move to table until you have a quorum.
Okay. All in favor, or second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's 4 in agreement and 1 absent. We go to, there are no cases today. Communications, bylaws, and rules of order. And Mr. Logue has cleaned up the proposal here, or the draft, I should say, of the Planning Commission bylaws and rules. And let's see, did anyone want to make any further, address any other changes or additions that they would like to see in this?
I think we do need to make an amendment to this, if I'm not mistaken. City planner has identified an area that we overlooked with the bylaws, so we'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll pass these out first and then.
No, thank you.
It's a little bit of a long story on what I think most people were anticipating was a short meeting. So as many as the commissioners may or may not know, but I serve as the president of the Athens County Regional Planning Commission. And at our meeting last week, it was identified that we needed to have an election for officers for the Regional Planning Commission, which is required to be done every year in April. And the officers are president, vice president, treasurer, and a secretary. And so as we appointed a committee to make nominations, and as that committee was, which I was serving on, and we were discussing the nominations, which is generally a perfunctory task, somebody started skimming through the bylaws of the Athens County Regional Planning Commission, which I've included here, and observed that in Article 2, under membership, in section B, so that's page 2, Article 2B, where it begins 1 representative for each 5,000 persons. What that means is that within the City of Athens, the City of Athens has 4 appointments to the Athens County Regional Planning Commission because we have 23,000 some by census. What it says is all members of the Athens County Regional Planning Commission representing municipal corporations shall be designated by the Planning Commission of said municipal corporation. Now, these bylaws have been on the books for decades. And among the email discussion was that there is no past practice, there's no evidence that that's ever how it's really been done as far as appointments to the Regional Planning Commission for Athens or any of the other cities. So we were discussing this, and typically the past practice has been that the 2 seats have been designated for the mayor of the city, and 1 seat is designated for the council representative of the Planning and Development Chair, and then the 2 other seats are appointees that the mayor decides on. And so what we've always done was had the mayor, and currently we have Mayor Patterson, and Chris Fall is the Planning and Development Chair of City Council, and then 2 appointments. I'm one of the appointments, and Arian Smedley, who is a citizen of Athens, was the 4th appointment. What we were discussing, or what I was thinking about and discussed briefly with the mayor the other day, is since we're doing the bylaws or the rules for the City Planning Commission, do we want to clarify that something about the appointments to the Regional Planning Commission so that it is in our bylaws to conform with this? And then you can also see this relevant section of Ohio Revised Code that I included, which is 713.21. And in the 2nd paragraph of section A, it specifies that fourth line there, 3rd and 4th line, participating units of local government shall be determined by a majority of the planning commissions and boards. And that's all it says within the ORC.
I believe, and you might need to clarify this, Mayor, that the mayor makes the appointment and recommends, and then council has accepted that, consented, is that?
And city council approves.
Or consented to your appointment. And in this case, it would be, the mayor would then be making the recommendation to this body, and this body would consent to his.
I think that's the appropriate
Yeah.
way to go with this. Is that
Okay.
I bring forward candidates, except I wouldn't bring forward myself. But
Right.
sure, so as there are vacancies, then I would bring them to this body. And then, so that's the amendment that we make to the bylaws as they exist.
Where would that fit?
I hadn't
be
thought about
inserted.
that too much, but I would suggest we do an Article 8 and just call that Article 8 appointments to the Regional Planning Commission. And we just may need one or two sentences. It says appointments to the Regional Planning Commission shall be made annually at the beginning of each year or in January of every year. Appointments will be designated by the mayor of the city and with consent from the Planning Commission.
Would it be an Article 6?
Is that what you said, Mayor?
Or 7? Or 7, I mean? Because
We're having trouble finding Article 7.
we want an Article 7. You want,
I'm sorry, my Roman
Okay.
numerals are off.
okay.
Thank you, RJ. Yes, okay, so create an Article 7. Might be the clearest way to do it.
And would it just have the wording basically that was in this document that you've given us today, or would this be something we want to word specifically for our purpose?
I think we can word it specific to our purposes, provided that it conforms with what it says in both Ohio Revised Code and in the bylaws to the Regional Planning Commission. So I think my recommendation would be that we do Article 7, appointments to the Regional Planning Commission. And then we could say appointments to the Regional Planning Commission will be made in January of each year with the mayor making appointments upon consent, with consent of the regional, or of the Athens City Planning Commission. And that's it.
Shall we include, or in case of a vacancy?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah,
If that happened to Madeira.
that's a good point, yeah.
Now, Mayor, when we're talking about this, would the people that you would like to submit for approval, would they be making a brief presentation about themselves, or just their name would come up and we would, well, in other words, would there be any background offered to?
Sure.
Okay.
I think that's the right way to go. That's the way it works with city council. If
Okay.
council is approving anyone that I'm putting forward for other boards and commissions. Paul, would it be better, not to quibble over this stuff, but rather, I'm looking at what you've provided for us for the Regional Planning Commission, and maybe this is just adding a sentence or two to membership within
Article
our
1.
planning commission,
Oh,
which would mirror the membership, Article 2, in the Regional Planning Commission. So rather than creating a new article altogether, we just put it into Article 1, because Article 1 is the first time it talks about the membership and the number of members that serve on. Oh, wait a minute.
See,
No,
I see what you mean.
no, you're right. No, this should be Article 7. No, it has to stand alone. I'm sorry, I'm now starting to meld
Okay.
these two together.
Now you're really going to be upset with me.
yeah, I think it
because-
should be a separate article.
Yeah, I agree.
So does 713.01 state that it's appointed by the mayor? Does that also include anything about legislative bodies' consent?
For the planning commission?
Yeah, for us, here.
Can you repeat that question, Paula?
We reference in Article 1 for this body's board of membership, 713.01 of ORC. I didn't know if there's any.
That is a separate section specifically about municipal planning
And
commission.
it doesn't require a consent of the
It does not.
legislative body?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
So we wouldn't
comes
be
me.
voting on, it would just be, basically the mayor is presenting who the people will be, the candidates will be, but we wouldn't vote, for instance.
Well, I think they do. I mean, all I can
Yeah.
give you is
No,
what
I
the
mean-
mayor's saying in terms of like city council. He provides the veta, to them,
Yeah.
and so that they know, have that, if they have any questions. And
Well, I mean, I just wondered in terms of, would we need to have that, in that situation, in our bylaws at all? If basically the mayor was presenting the candidates to the commission, but if we weren't going to vote on it, then I don't understand what the planning commission would really, what we would really be doing apart from,
I think you'd have to vote.
Yeah, I was going to
We'd
say.
have to vote. I mean,
it
to
says
indicate
designated,
consent, You
so-
would have to vote.
Right.
okay.
I think what we were looking at, RJ, is a combination of past practice, which was, past practice has always been that the mayor appoints
Okay.
to the Athens County Regional Planning Commission. So we continue that past practice, but instead of just the mayor appointing, the mayor appoints or the mayor designates or requests, and then the planning commission votes on
Okay.
that request.
But voting would be written into the article as well,
Sure,
as far
yeah.
as what our
Yeah.
participation in that would be, the process would be. Okay.
I guess I thought
So-
gaining consent was implied as an
Sorry.
approval, but I don't know.
So RJ, what I would suggest is that we could write it such that it's recommendations to the Athens County Regional Planning Commission, or recommendations for appointments to the Athens County Regional Planning Commission shall be made by the mayor of, shall be made by the mayor, and voted or by, I guess by consent would be by approval, and made by approval of the Athens City Planning Commission.
Is that acceptable to everybody, Mayor?
Here's where I'm struggling. I mean, this isn't rocket science, and I get that.
Yeah.
But we are talking about two different boards
Right.
or commissions. So us being planning, and then there's the Regional Planning Commission, and to me, this is sounding more and more like an amendment that may need to be made to this document, as opposed to making an amendment to our document, because, I mean, there could be the two talking to each other, as per,
We were wondering the same thing.
that's
With
what
the
I,
exception of ORC stating that the appointments are made by the commissions, the municipal. So we're trying to get I mean, this was drafted in 1966 initially. The effective date of the 713.21 is 1986. We've never had bylaws or rules for the city planning commission that we're aware of.
okay. All right, well, let's just move forward with an amendment to the Planning Commission's bylaws.
Okay.
That speaks to that, since this does have, it is cited under ORC.
I'm not opposed to asking the county commissioners and the regional planning commission to amend these bylaws. The only impacted communities would be the city of Athens and the city of Nelsonville by that change.
Yeah.
And I think changes to that have to go from the regional planning commission to make a recommendation to the county commissioners, and then they would have to vote on it. So from a bureaucratic standpoint, but I don't mind passing it on to them either. We can, yeah.
The other thing I'd like to watch is with the next census, we might hit 25. That gains us another seat.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. And 2 council members.
And a second council member?
Oh, yeah.
One more at large
We
and
would
one
have
more
another
ward.
precinct.
Oh, here. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Okay. There's still something in my mind about it, but I don't know that it's really worth, since the rest of our rules and bylaws don't specify basically what our job description is. This, to me, almost seems like a piece of job description. And the rest of the rules and bylaws doesn't have that. So,
Okay.
again, I didn't know. But if, the more experienced people on the commission think that we need that, then that's fine. And I think, is there any questions to Paul's wording as far as how he worded?
Is that comment, RJ, that you don't think this,
I just wondered if
This needs to be
we needed
included
it
in
at
these
all.
rules?
Just
Okay.
because again it's I see it as like then part of our job to do, but we don't have a job description basically in terms of what we do that are written into the.
I see what you mean.
So is the function of the planning commission then written into city code rather than these bylaws? Is that where the job description
Which is
is
wondering.
spelled out? And if that's the case,
I'm not,
so what RJ is saying is that our our duties aren't spelled out necessarily in the bylaws.
Right.
But are the duties spelled out in whether it's chapter 3.0, 7.01, or somewhere else in city code of these are the functions of the planning commission?
And would
Does
rather,
that exist in code somewhere?
well, it's
ORC.
scattered depending on what issue we're dealing with.
Okay.
As far as the approval process, there's parts of subdivision regulations, but Ohio Revised Code, chapter 713.01 dictates how municipal planning commissions are created and their
Their duties?
their duties and obligations and
but
responsibilities.
then,
Okay.
Yeah.
but then what Christy's saying, would it be when you're saying it's scattered, then wouldn't this be maybe more appropriate still in there under regional, if we have the information about regional planning commission, then what the
Okay.
process is there, and then the planning commission is involved in terms of making, consent, to the mayor's appointments. I'm probably really confusing you here.
I think what,
Thank
if we
you.
can all interpret each other, I think what RJ is saying is if the other specific duties of the body are spelled out in other places but not in the bylaws, does this particular duty need to be spelled out in the bylaws, or can we just rely on the fact that it's spelled out in ORC or?
We could. That's totally fine if that's what the planning commission would prefer.
Did I capture
right.
what you're
Yes.
trying to say?
Right.
Okay.
Christy's my official translator today. Thank you.
That is, if this is not of interest, these are your rules. This is the rules of the five of you, not my rules. So if you don't think it's appropriate to put in here at this point, that's
And I don't disagree
That's
that it's
fine,
not, I'm
yeah,
just asking,
right.
I'm just bringing up the question, and if,
right.
For
I guess if nothing else, then
consistency.
if nothing else, it's important for the planning commissioners to be aware
right,
of this responsibility, which I don't know that this has ever been discussed at the city, at least not in the 10 years I've been in Athens and been working with the planning commission, so. And the regional planning commission, this was never discussed either.
It'll be memorialized in our minutes today,
There we go.
so we're aware.
Right.
So on that, would the body entertain a motion to approve Athens City Planning Commission rules and bylaws?
Rules.
What's the word? What word am I supposed to
Rules.
use? Bylaws?
By recommendation of the law director,
Rules?
rules, yes,
Rules.
yes.
Thank you. Order's gone, it's chaos, right? Just rules? Okay.
Mayor, would you agree with that, or? Okay, just,
So we're looking for a motion to accept them as written without an additional amendment. Is that correct? Oh, okay.
Okay.
I will second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous,
Okay.
and I'm sure Patty has done so, but our fifth member is now present, so everyone is available.
Seconded before Christie.
So would the body entertain?
Paula seconded?
No.
Oh, so you moved and she seconded.
No, that's okay. I'm now moving again. I didn't mean to untable. Would you entertain a motion to untable the disposition of minutes now that the third planning commission member has arrived? Remove it from the table. Okay.
I so move.
Okay.
And all in favor then?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on. Report from the city planner.
So we can vote on the.
Oh, wait.
We can vote on the minutes
sorry.
now that Nancy's
Okay.
here.
So does someone want to make the motion again then on that?
I move that we approve the minutes as presented, or, Nancy, did you have any?
No, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And two abstentions?
Abstentions.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now the the report from the city planner, Mr. Logue.
I just included in, or I believe Patty included in the packets, a copy of the press release that was distributed last week relating to the draft vision statement and guiding principles for the city's comprehensive plan update. I believe most of you, if not all of you, have already seen this information distributed through. I know Nancy has and RJ has and the mayor and Paula, I'm assuming Christie has as well. Just wanted the five of you to be aware of that. This information will be open for public comments and scrutiny until next week. February 21st, I believe, is the date I set. And then once we are done with the visioning, there will probably be a few minor changes from comments I've received so far about this, but nothing significant that I've heard so far or significant questions relating to any issues with this. What we will do is then transition from visioning for the comprehensive plan and start moving into the planning. So that'll be convening workshops and meetings and stakeholder groups to start kind of asking and learning, taking a deeper dive into each one of those guiding principles to better understand the situation as it exists in Athens today, things that we might anticipate in the horizon, ways that we can build on some of these issues to improve Athens and codify all that into include all that into the city's comprehensive plan. That's all. If you have any questions about it or comments, feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Logue.
Thank you.
Mr. Suroy?
I really don't have anything, but there's nothing on the horizon for the next meeting currently.
Okay. Again, there are no citizens in our live audience. I'm sorry?
No.
Oh, okay. So there is no one to address the Planning Commission today. Announcements and other business, Mayor?
I have a couple items I'd like to bring up. February 20th, there will be an open house on OU campus. It will be at 53 Richland Avenue, which is Grover Center, in the atrium. It will be from 3:30 to 6 p.m. Again, it's an open house to talk about the Richland Avenue pedestrian passageway project, which we're affectionately referred to as RP3. Again, this will be for the community to be able to engage with Burgess and Neipel. They're the design firm on this. This is a safety feature that we're hoping to integrate into Richland Avenue to make for safe passage of students, faculty, staff, pedestrians, period, to cross that very congested crosswalk. It's a surface crosswalk now, so that will be what this open house is all about. So we encourage anybody and everyone to come and engage in that. And the other thing is just an update. I know that I certainly, and my staff certainly hears about potholes around the city. And in particular, East State Street, we are exploring, and it's likely to happen to where one of the asphalt manufacturers, one of the plants, will be opening up, which is not an everyday occurrence, but to have hot mix that we're able to put down in the potholes, and in particular on East State Street. This is a good thing that we acknowledge the fact that it's rough out there, but we also are doing everything in our power to make sure we're getting those potholes filled. And in particular, I mean, if you think about it, it's our higher use arteries, our primaries in the city that really are the ones that get impacted, especially on particularly cold winters like we've experienced this year. This year with temperatures going into the teens and into the tens and into the single digits for that matter, and below zero. When that happens, patchwork tends to pop up, and so we're on it to make sure we can get that corrected. So those are my big two to announce.
Okay.
So really, please come out on the 20th, February 20th, 3:30 to 6 at Grover Center on campus to engage in the RP3 conversation.
Any other business or announcements? Okay. Our next meeting will be March 1st, 2018. With the business of the Athens City Planning Commission concluded, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.